my name is John Bailey, and I'm the designer of Fortress of Terror, a solitaire roll-and-write adventure game that plays in a little under an hour. In Fortress of Terror, you are a humble hero sent by your village to enter the terrifying fortress of the evil warlord Brahm in order to stop him from terrorizing the realm. You do this by making your way through 4 chapters or sections of the game. Each chapter places you in a maze that you must explore and escape from, collecting powerful relics and other goals that you must achieve to win. You move around each maze using a pool of dice that are rolled each round. If you manage to fulfill the chapter objective and escape the maze, you will advance to the next chapter, until you reach the final battle with Brahm himself. Please note these are prototype components, not the final artwork or layout. Let's go ahead and get started through a setup. So to play the game, you're going to need these components. You need the game sheets, and it's double-sided. This is the first side and the second side. You need a hero sheet. This is also double-sided. Here's our front and our back. Notice that I have laminated these. Well, actually, they're not laminated. They're in clear plastic folders. That's so that I can use a wet erase pen here, or you can use a dry erase as well, so that it's easier to reuse these. You could also just print it and then use a pencil or erasable pen. You will also need 4 6-sided movement dice. And here we are, we have those. In this prototype copy we have 4 ivory colored dice here. We also have a 4-sided luck die. We also need a 6-sided orb die. Now if you're pulling this at home, you can use any 6-sided die for this. I recommend it looks different than these so that you can tell the difference, preferably blue. You will also need a 6-sided combat die. And in this situation as well, if you're putting together your own, you can use any 6-sided die that looks different than the orb die or the movement dice, preferably red. The reason the color matters is only so that when you're referring to the rule book and you see red dice and blue dice, then it's easier to follow along. And you also need the 12-sided doom die. You will also need 17 relic cards. Now, these are printed up prototype cards, but of course if you print your own, you will be printing it's a few sheets of cards that you will just simply cut out, and they look like this. And that's it. So first, to set up the game, let's place the game sheet in front of you. We're not going to play a full game here. This is just a brief introductory video to show you how to play the game. So we're going to start with, in this example, we're going to be using Brahm's Garden, which is chapter 1 of the game. This is where you start. So notice that this sheet has both chapter 1, Brahm's Garden, and chapter 2, Brahm's Crypt on the same page. That was just to save paper. But when you play the second chapter, you will tilt it like so and play this area. So for this example, we'll just be playing the left-hand side. But I'll leave it uncovered. Alright, so some areas of the game sheet to take notice of. Here we've got the title of the game. And we'll, again, only look at this half of the sheet. We have a terror track, which marks the rounds of the game. We'll get to that later. We have the doom track, or not track, but a doom space, in which this is where your doom die will rest. Does it matter that much? Not really. You could keep it off here if you wanted, but this just gives you a handy place to keep it so you're always looking to the same spot for it. Also, there is your maze here. This is the main game area where you will be exploring the maze. This is the title of the chapter, Brahm's Garden, and this right here is just an icon of a vine, which basically marks the garden chapter. Now, at this point in the development of the game, the vine is not really that important to understand. Later on as you go on, because it's not used much yet at this point in the game, later on you're going to see the crypt, which is marked by a coffin, and the tower, which is marked by a little tower icon. And those are important as you go through the relic cards, which we'll get to soon. Once you have this face up in front of you, the next thing you will need is your hero sheet over here. The hero sheet has 2 sides, as I mentioned before. And what you have is, here you can write your name, anything you want. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to call my hero, or heroine in this case, I'm going to call her, oh, I don't know, how about Maya? All right. Title, you don't know what your title is until you win the game. And that's when Maya will become Maya the something. So, and of course this is merely flavor text, or you know, just to add a theme to the game. But your score actually does matter, and your title is based on your score. Chapter 1, here is the scoring area for Chapter 1. This is all we're going to use in our example today. But as you would progress through Chapter 2, and then Chapter 3, you'd be scoring yourself here. Then you will total all your scores from the 3 chapters, and that total will result in your fortitude, or I guess for some of you who played a lot of role-playing games, hit points or health is your fortitude for the final battle. But let's go back to our example here. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and cover this over. That way you have less to look at and be confused. All right. So now let's go ahead and look at the 4 movement dice. These movement dice and the luck die and the doom die are all going to be placed here in our play area ready to play because we need them at the beginning of the game. The orb die and the combat die are used later in the game in chapters 2 and 3, so we're just going to set those aside out of the frame for now so that you won't be confused by those. And now, separate out the 12 basic relic cards from the others. There are 12 basic relic cards. Okay? So, these are the frog boots, the eagle feather, the luck ring, the magic boomerang, agility necklace, image mirror, phase belt, recall scarf, restoration gem, rogue cloak, speed gloves, and the travel helm. How do I know that these are the basic cards? They have no icons in the upper part of the card. If you'll notice on these, there are icons. The knockstone has both the coffin, which matches, as we looked previously, Brahm's crypt. If you flip over the game sheet, you'll see the Brahm's tower here. It has a tower icon here. So it's reminding you that the cards here, knockstone is used in Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Same with the morphing rod. Fate dagger's only used in Chapter 3, as is the portal hood and the smiting sword. So, take the relics that are only used in Chapters 2 and 3 and place them aside for later. You will be adding them to your deck when you reach those chapters. So you will only start with these 12 basic relic cards, shuffle them up, and you're going to make a deck right up here. Is that still in the frame? Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Now, you need to place the 5 remaining cards aside over here, as I mentioned. And then you're going to roll the 12-sided doom die. This is part of setup still. So, okay, we have a 7. So we're going to place that 7 on the doom space, and that is going to be this is the value which will affect what happens during a Brahm's power phase. We'll come to that when we talk about phases. Also, the doom die in Chapter 1 signifies which orb location, and I'll get that closer to the camera, which of these orb locations. Okay, so we have 10 and 12, 7. Here's 7. So the beginning of the game, you're going to be starting with the orb in this location. Now, it's simply, you know that it's virtually there. I mean, you're not going to put anything on the board to represent that. Just this symbol here, 7, represents this is an orb location, as is all these other blue. So later on, as the game progresses, the doom die is going to change value. And when the doom die changes value, here, when it changes, so does the orb's location. Now, take a pencil or pen in hand, and you're ready to begin the Fortress of Terror. Fortress of Terror, the instructional portion. So here in this portion of the video, I'm going to teach you the basic mechanisms for the game. I will tell you how the game round works. So the rules for the game round in all chapters are basically the same. There is a core mechanism or core rule set that and a game round flow. But later chapters will have some unique elements that make them fresh and different from the others and reflects the story arc of the game. The rulebook explains what those differences are for each chapter, but I'll let you discover those on your own. So, in this instructional part of the video, I'm going to teach you the basic rules of the game and how a game round works. We're going to start with Chapter 1 here in our example. Now, the point of Chapter 1 is to collect as many relics as possible. Let's see if we can get that full frame there. Okay. We're collecting as many relics as we possibly can. Why? Well, because each relic you collect has a special ability on it. Let's see if we can get that focus. Okay. So, for example, the speed gloves allows us to use all of our movement dice and we don't have to discard any. What does that mean? You'll find out later. But each time when I use this, I flip it over and I can use it once per chapter. But these are very powerful, and I will tell you, without these relics, you cannot win this game. The dice alone are not enough to move around. You must use your relics very wisely in order to win this game. Now, you have, so as you collect the relics here in this, you're going to have to sacrifice sometimes. You can't get everything, so you're going to have to decide what is most important. But collecting relics alone does not allow you to win. What allows you to win Chapter 1 is you must collect the orb of ice before the end of round 7. The orb of ice is located at one of these 12 blue orb locations each round. The exact location it's at depends on what the face of the Doom die is. So in this case, the Doom die is a 7, so this first round of the game, it's right here. It may be hard for you to see that, but from the camera angle, but that is a 7. So the 7th is here. So this is where it is in the first round. If I want to collect it this round, I have to move all the way up there. And we start here in the footprints. So getting there, I'll tell you now, it is going to be impractical in the first round. I don't think I can get up there very easily, so I may just have to let that one go this round, and it will bounce over to 8 next round. And I'll show you how that works here in just a moment. So, collecting as many relics as possible and collecting the orb of ice at its current location sometime during these 7 rounds and getting out of here through the gates allows me to win. So, let's start. We're going to start with the phases of the game. There are 4. We have the roll dice phase, the activate dice phase, the Brahms power phase, in which after you've activated your dice and moved around, he now gets a chance to try to thwart your quest by screwing everything up for you. And then the 4th phase is Terror Grows. Then we start all over with a new round. Okay, let me push this back into the frame. Alright, let's start with our first phase, roll dice. So we take, in this first chapter, we're using the 4 movement dice and the 4-sided luck die. Let's roll those and see what we get. Okay, here are our dice. Let's see if I can move this over a little bit. I can push these dice off and you can still see what they are. Okay, so now that's all you do in the first phase. In the second phase, you're going to activate these dice. These dice allow you to move. Each die corresponds to a certain number of steps that you can take in one orthogonal, not diagonal, direction. Okay, and so Brahm has this evil power that prevents you from moving diagonally. It's just heinous. So you just always have to march straight ahead and then pivot 90 degrees and move. It's just this weird evil power he's got going on. I don't know why he makes you do that. I think he thinks that's humorous. So no diagonal moves. So what you're going to have to do is choose, in this activate dice phase, you are going to choose 3 of these dice to activate, but you do it one at a time. However, you're going to notice as you play this game that planning is everything. So you might want to go ahead and plan your entire activate dice phase before starting to move. Now, you don't have to, but that's a good idea. Now, we know here in just a moment, I will tell you that at the end of during the Brahms power phase in Chapter 1, which comes after I activate these dice, here, I'll move that back over, because I'm visual, so I appreciate that myself. The Brahms power phase comes after activate dice. So after we activate all of our dice, Brahms power is going to happen. So why am I telling you that now? Well, because that affects where we move. You need to understand that here in Brahms' power phase, he is going to destroy forever the relic that is marked 7, which is right here. So, when he does that, well, big deal, that's just 1, okay? Well, actually it is a big deal because it causes you to lose a lot of points every time he does that. You are scored at the end of every chapter. And that score, as I mentioned earlier, all adds up at the end to give you the strength that you need to fight Brahms. So for everything that he destroys, the weaker you're going to be at the end. And it's possible that you could be too weak to even enter his chamber and lose the game. So this is called losing relics. A lost relic is when Brahms destroys one during the Brahms power phase. So if we can get the 7, it would be great. But again, just like the orbs, sometimes you just have to let them slide and let them go. And those are difficult choices to make. So I'm not sure how practical it is for me to get there, but it might be. All right, we're going to start here in the footprints here at the starting. So we have to choose one of these dice now to activate. Well, if we're trying to get to the 7, how possible is that? If we use the 6, that would allow us to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, what's that T? That T is a trap. Every time you hit a trap, well, you don't stop, you don't die, you don't do anything except at the end of the chapter you lose points for every trap you moved through. So, you want to try to avoid doing that when you can, but I will tell you now that it's impossible, almost impossible to avoid hitting any traps. Now, not impossible, but I don't think I've ever been able to avoid all traps in any play of this game after over 100 plays. So, it is difficult, but you will have to hit some. So, hit the ones that make sense. In this case, it's worth it to hit it maybe if I go all the way to here and collect relic number 12. Then I don't have to worry about Brahm stealing that relic from me later. Then maybe I could move over here and get the 7. The only problem is it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away from there. I don't have any more 6s. Well, can I move less or greater than the die that I picked? No. You cannot. You have to move the exact number. So if I choose this one, I will be 1 short when I get there. Then a 2 is not gonna, it's gonna be too much, right? It's gonna take me past the 7 and into a wall. Well, you mean there are walls? Yes, there are walls. There are barriers in here. Barriers are these walls here. It's also the edge of the garden here. These are barriers that you cannot move through. And if you have to allocate a die, and that causes you to run into a wall, then you can't do that. That's an illegal move. And if that's your only option, then you'll lose the game. So you don't want to put yourself in that position. And when you can't use a die legally to move, that's called being trapped. And if you are trapped, you lose the game. So you want to make sure you always have a way out. In this case, moving 5 and then 2 is not possible. Well, look. What's this? This is the luck die. It has a 1 on it. Wait. What does the luck die do? The luck die allows me to add or subtract this amount from any one die right before when I activate it. So in this case, what if I mix it with the 5? 5 plus 1 is 6. I could also use it to take away 1 to make it 5 minus 1 is 4. But in this case, look at this. What if I use the 6 to move here, collect the 12, then I use the 5 plus 1 to move over here and collect the 7. Now I've taken it away from Brahm and he won't take it from me at the end of the round. From that point, I have these 2 left. Now, you only activate 3 of your 4. The 4th die is discarded. But they're both 2, so we know that we'll just be discarding one of those, right? But if we move 2 from this location, what would be logical? Well, I guess the only option we would have is to go up north from there. So let's go ahead and activate all these dice. Notice I've planned my turnout before moving. I think that's a very helpful thing to do. So I will activate 6, and I will move 1, hope you can see, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have moved through 12, but I have to get all the way to the end of my movement before collecting the relic. Now I've collected relic number 12. Now it doesn't matter the number of relic when you're collecting the relic. You draw randomly from this deck here that you have prepared earlier. Now I've got my deck off camera a little bit, so I'm just going to draw the top one so you can see here. We get the Rogue Cloak. What does that do? During a single movement, ignore all traps moved through. Mark the traps with an X to remember when you're scoring. Well, that's nice. That would have been nice to have here, right? Well, one thing also to understand, and before I say this, I'm going to take this here, this Rogue Cloak, and I'm going to place it right there just so that you can see the name and remember what we have. Okay? So I can use this Rogue Cloak anytime before activating a die, not after. So I can't use all my movement and then activate a relic. I have to do it before I activate one of these dice. So I could do it on my next move if I want, but I'm not going to move through any traps, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and use my next die. 5 plus the luck die is 6. I'm going to head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and collect another relic. I'm going to draw it off the deck here. I pulled the Agility Necklace. During a single movement, I can change directions any number of times. That's very handy. So if I move a 6 from here, if I could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and get the 5. I could just change my direction any number of times. That's the power of these relics. You can see why these are so powerful, but once I use it, I have to flip it over and I cannot use it again until next chapter. But you do get to keep them, because you'll need them for the final battle. Now I have one more die I have not activated. Let's activate, this 2, I guess, and then this one's going to get discarded. And we're going to move 2. Now I really only have one legal move here. I have to go orthogonal. There's a wall there and a wall there, so I just have to go up. Now, that is the end of activation phase. I was able to collect 2 relics, though, out of 12 in one round. So, not too bad. And now, the next part of the phase, I'd move it over, but I don't want to move all of our stuff. So we have Brahm's power phase. So now, Brahm is going to destroy relic number 7. He can't because it's in my possession. Once I snag it, he can't touch it. So, I have protected relic number 7 from him. But now we move on to the 4th phase, which is called Terror Grows. Terror Grows simply means we mark off the round. So now, thematically, I'm getting a little scared here. Okay? And the more you play this game, you might start getting scared too. Alright. Scared that you'll lose. Alright. And one more thing you do during Terror Grows. You rotate this die. We're going to rotate it 1 higher than it currently is, which is 8, right? So let's see if we can find the 8. Oh, it's right there. All right? That's the end of the round. Now, round 2. Let's do a round 2, and let's see what we can do. We're going to roll all of our dice again. And we have 4, 3, 5, and 3, and then a 4 on this die. Okay, on the luck die. Okay, so potentially we could move up to 9 spaces if we wanted with that one die. So sometimes chucking, just trucking it across the map can be helpful. But in this case, 8 is going to disappear at the end of the round. Now, another thing we haven't talked about is, as you move through Brahm's fortress, he has this, I guess, curse or whatever on the fortress here, and this curse is causing your path to crumble behind you as you walk, and it's called crumbling paths. So as you walk, this path behind you has crumbled away into a black nothingness that you will fall into and never hit the bottom. So you can't cross over a path or move into a crumbling path. Basically, you can't go back over the places you've walked before. So we can't backtrack. There's no way we can move across my line here to get to 8. We would have to go around or around, and as you see, that's not really doable, is it? I might have to sacrifice 8. Unless, of course, I find a way to teleport over there. Or something else. So, what I'm going to do is not be, you can't be completionist in your mindset here. There's just no way. You're going to have to let something go. So I'm going to let the 8 go in my mind right now. I might find another option later to get to it, but I'm just going to let it go. One thing I do know, though, is what's coming next round? A 9. Where's the 9? Right there. why not just give up on my 8 for the time being and grab the 9, which I know I can get, and see what happens. So let's see if we can get to that 9. We have a teleporter C next to us, so if I move into the teleporter, I'm going to jump out way over here. I don't know that that's going to help us. What if I shoot up here and across to get the 9? That would be 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. I have a 4. Let's just do that, okay? So I'm activating my 4. Boom. And I'm going to move. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hit another trap, but well, why don't you use the rogue cloak then? I'll tell you why I'm not going to use the rogue cloak. At the end of the round, when you score, the chapter, when you score in chapter 1, for every relic you have not used, you get 5 points. That's huge. At the end of the round, for every relic you have used, you get only 3 points. For every trap you hit, you lose 2 points. So, you mean if I use the rogue cloak now, I will not lose 2 points at the end of the round for this, but I'll lose 2 points of value from this, so it balances out. That's right. So in some ways, this is really, in the first chapter anyway, this is valuable when you're crossing over 2 traps or more. Well, how possible? It's possible. Look right here. Boom. It's even possible to move. If you're trucking it a long distance, I could move through a bunch of traps. So, in the first chapter, this is just a small tip here. Using your rogue cloak is useful for 2 or more traps, typically. You could use it for another trap, too, if you wanted. Okay, so now that I'm here, I have a second die I can activate. Do I have a 2 to get across to the 9? A 1 would work, a 2 would work, but a 3 or more will run me into the wall. That won't work. So that 3 is useless, isn't it? What's 5 minus 4? 1. There we go. Let's use that. Let's grab that 9. But that leaves me in a position I'm not crazy about. But you know what? That's the name of the game, Fortress of Terror. You're always getting left in places you're not crazy about that leave you feeling uneasy, and that's where the terror comes from. So now we've collected a 9, so I'm going to draw another card off my relic stack, and what do we have? We have the Travel Helm. When teleporting, move to any destination teleporter, even if it does not match, only scores as 1 teleporter use. Now, what does all that mean? Well, when I use a teleporter, I have to jump to the other one matching the same letter. However, this one allows me to jump to any other teleporter, even if it doesn't match the same letter. That can be very useful. Let's hold on to that. Let's see. Now I'm getting a little stressed. We need to move somewhere else. Let's move up. Let's see. What do I have left? I have a 3 and a 3. Oh, that's not a lot of choices. 1, 2, 3. That's going to put me right there. I'm not crazy about that, but I don't really have many choices, do I? So let's just move 3. And again, I'm moving through another trap. But I'm not going to bother using my my rogue cloak at the moment because it's going to wash, isn't it? All right. In chapter 1, now in chapters 2 and 3, the rogue cloak could be useful for moving through only 1 trap because you don't lose points or your relics are not devalued when they're used in chapter 2 and 3. So you can see how the usage of these will change as you go from chapter to chapter. So now I'm here. Let's see. I have to discard my last die. And now that's the end of my activate dice phase. Now Brahm's power phase. 8. I just couldn't get to it. There was no way. So Brahm, I'm going to put an X over 8 because Brahm has stolen it from me and destroyed it. It is lost. I am not able to collect this relic anymore. Additionally, this space is now blocked, and I cannot move into it. It's blocked in the same way that crumbling paths have blocked spaces I can't move into it. So, oh well. That's going to cost me, this is going to be minus 5 points at the end of the chapter. So, that cancels out one of the relics I collected. So, that's pretty valuable, and you don't want to lose them any more than you have to. Okay? And now, we move on to Terror Grows. Terror Grows, we rotate the die, and we move to 9, and we're going to mark off the second round. Now, at this point, after second round, I've collected 3 out of the 12 relics. Do I have to collect all 12? No, of course not. I don't know that I ever have. I think I did once in an earlier iteration of the game. It's very difficult to get all 12. I guess things would just have to fall right for you, and you just, but that's okay. Maybe collecting 7, 8, or 9 of them would be adequate for you to continue and feel like you had the arsenal you needed to complete. So, but you're gonna have to discover that for yourself as you play the game. What do what works, what you're going to need for later. Just as some helpful tips as you go forward, you're going to need as many relics, again, as I mentioned, as many relics as possible from here, because there are 12 here. There are only 2 in Chapter 2, relics that you can collect. And there are only 3 in Chapter 3 that you can collect in the tower. But the cool thing is, as you go into Chapter 2, all the relics you did not collect stay in this deck. And you're going to add 2 new ones to the deck. And so you could possibly get these. And when you move on to Chapter 3, any relics still in the deck remain there, and you're going to add these and shuffle these in. And now you've got, these are really powerful. So, as you move forward, it's going to be harder to get relics if you have not already collected very many of these. And it will make the game more challenging. So getting those relics is important. How many to get? That's up to you and what you can pull off. And then another thing to talk about is, and we're going to stop here as far as the number of rounds. This is really all there is to it, mechanically speaking, in Chapter 1. And for the majority of the game, really, these are the basic mechanisms. But things to understand is you cannot get everything. You will have to sacrifice here and there. You will... you need to be patient. You need to plan your moves out carefully. Don't feel a slave to your dice. You think you might feel like whatever I roll, it's just, oh well, it's just all luck. It's not. What you roll here, there are enough choices, unless you have backed yourself into a corner. You usually have some way to wriggle out of where you are. Will it be enough to get you to the goal and the exit? I don't know. But getting trapped is rarely a case of just bad luck. Usually it's poor planning and maneuvering yourself into a bad position. This luck die is golden. You do not have to use the luck die. It's optional. Sometimes I don't need it. But that alters one of these dice such that you can typically find something to get you close to what you needed. Not always exactly what you needed. If you don't use your relics, you will lose. Now in Chapter 1, you could use very few of them and still win as you get better at the game. And that's good because the ones you have not used will give you more scoring at the end. Let's go ahead and look at the scoring one real quick before we quit. We have in Chapter 1, you're going to get 5 points for every unused relic. We mentioned that. You're going to get 3 points for every used relic. So even if you use it, you still get some good points for it. For every teleporter you used, you get 2 points. You're going to add these up and get your total score for the round. To use a teleporter, let's just do one for sample. Let's say we're going to go into that B teleporter. Let's activate the 5 die, and I know we didn't roll, but that's okay. We're going to move 1. Our next move has to be the other matching teleporter. And that is counted as a space. B is here. 2. See, this is B, this is B. So we moved 1, 2. Now we have to move 3, 4, 5. Well, I can't move that way because I'll run into the wall. So let's go north. 3, 4, 5. Now let's also look at how to use a relic. Let's say my next move is going to be a 4 plus 4 is 8. Okay, so I'm going to use this 4 die and that 4 to make 8. I'm going to use the agility necklace to make it so that I can change directions any number of times during that single movement of 8. So I'm going to flip it over to show that I've used it. Okay, and then I will move 8. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because I'm going to have to come around and get that 10, right? So the use of that agility necklace was amazing, because that allowed me to go and get the 4 and get myself better in position to go after the 10, because that's going to rotate to 10 next round, and so on and so forth. You can see how you can end up chasing relics that you know are going to be lost later in the game. And if you strategize it properly, you can snag relics such that you don't have to worry about Brahm's power too much, if you do it right. So there's a lot of strategy here, a lot of replayability in the sense that you will need to play it a lot in order to win. If you will lose on your first game, and probably quite terribly. But don't let that get you down. This is the Fortress of Terror, after all. And your first few games will be experimenting how the mechanisms work, how do I move, what do optimal moves look like, what kind of sacrifices are necessary, and what kind of sacrifices do I want to avoid, and so forth. One other thing to point out, I should probably point out how to get an orb. Let's say that our move this down. Let's say the Doom die said 8 right now. It doesn't. It didn't before. It said 9, but let's just say it says 8. Okay. I could move if I had. Let's just change our dice here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Let's make that a 4. Okay. Let's say I had these dice. I could move 1 here, and I could move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have entered the space of 8. This round, that matches the Doom die. That's where it's located. So now I've collected the orb for this chapter. Only have to collect it once. So on my hero sheet over here, if I can get it in, I'm going to mark Orb of Ice. I now have it. Okay. So, not a very complicated rule set. Fairly simple. Very flexible. But requires a lot of playing many times in order to win. This is a challenging game. It is a solitaire game. If you win on your first try, well, that doesn't leave you feeling like you really need to try it again, do you? Okay, you don't want it too easy. This might be similar in the line of some other solitaire games that you may have played before that require a lot of plays and you lose abysmally in the first few games. But that's the name of the game. In the rulebook, there are a few tips and strategies just to kind of keep you focused. And feel free to let me know if you have questions or are really stuck and need some help. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you learn the game and get your feet wet and get moving. All the other rules are in the rulebook. So, and again, let me know if you have questions. Thank you.